It's a great start for Arsenal. Gabriel Martinelli and Leandro Trossard come off the bench. Really good work from Mikel Arteta, may I say, to get Arsenal a 2-0 win against Athletic Club. I've got quite a bit to say on this game. I didn't know if I'd have much to say around the hour mark. But it's going to be really interesting to see what people's takes are on this performance, what people's takeaways are in terms of, was this a really good win in Europe? Was this sloppy from Arsenal? Should we seen a little bit more on the ball? Or did actually Arsenal nullify a team that came out with loads of energy, who'd won 3 out of 4 La Liga games, totally nullify them in their own backyard, get a foothold in the game, and then go and sucker punch them with 2 goals? I think that's probably quite a good way to look at it. Certainly, the latter is certainly more how I feel about it. That is a lot more praise in this performance than I fear Arsenal will get across the general media space. But we're going to see. This is my space to have my say, and the comment section is your space to have yours. So let me know in the comment section below what you made of Arsenal's win and the overall performance as we get ready to go into the Man City game on Sunday. Now, the first thing I want to touch on is the 11. This is a match report, and there's not much to say other than Merino moved more into the 10 space because Rice came in for the injured Ødegaard, who wasn't on the bench. Ben White, I don't believe, was on the bench either. That's slightly concerning. We hope for an update, and of course here on Goonerverse News, we'll give you that once we have it. But the perception of Merino starting midfield will have been seen slightly differently after what he did the other day against Forest, but what he's been doing as a goal-scoring threat for Spain. And so often in this game, Arsenal did look like a 4-4-2, where Merino was actually closer to Gyökeres and getting into more striking positions, and Rice was a little bit deeper next to Zubimendi. But there were constant rotations. Rice was dropping to left centre-back to receive the ball. Zubimendi went between the centre-backs. Merino was popping up all over the place to try to have an impact. I thought it was another good game from him, to be honest, Merino. I thought he did okay, nothing spectacular, but I think he is very much a central midfielder who can attack the box rather than someone you stick up the pitch to get those moments. I know he did it up front for us for a little bit, but I think he's more someone who kind of attacks the player, if that makes sense. Otherwise, Eze got the start and Madueke on the right with Gyökeres. Now, I actually thought the first half was littered with something I think has been quite true of this team for a little while, or certainly was before the international break, where I think the individual performances were better than the collective. I thought Eze did some good things. Well, Gyökeres looked busy, some good hold-up play, bullying defenders at times and getting shots away. I thought he did quite well. Madueke was destroying his fullback time and time again. I thought on an individual level, Zubimendi, Rice and Merino all looked all right, but as a 3, they didn't quite gel. The back 4 doing their job as always. And even though we were really on the back foot, even though Athletic Club... Okay, let me rephrase. Even though we were dealing with an energised Athletic Club who were very buzzy, who were getting in and around our goal, who were playing some good football, some good combinations at times, how often did Raya have much work to do? In fact, I think Athletic's best opportunity came towards the end of the first half when they shot it wide and we were on the attack. We were on the ball a lot more by that point. Once we got to minute 25, 30-ish, I also got a little bit more control of the game. And there were moments where Gyökeres had the beating of his fullback, beating of his centre-back by getting into space and shrugging them off. I thought we saw Madueke, for example, tearing his fullback apart, and that didn't really happen till about the 25th minute onwards. It took a little while for that to kind of come to life, and Zubimendi then started to punch the ball through the lines, and we started to see really good touches from Merino and Timber in tight spaces to open up the game for us a little bit. And I think Arsenal would have gone into half-time going, okay, look, it wasn't a great half, nothing to write home about, but it was one in which we started to grow into the game and we dealt with a very loud atmosphere and a very intense side and actually limited them to much sort of danger and much threat. Second half, though, starts very similarly. I think what Arteta read in this game, and I've got to give him major credit for it, was we were trying to go long a lot into Gyökeres. We were trying to actually get the ball in behind at times. And I think what we did better in the second half was give the ball more to feet for the combinations. And that's what you see with Trossard and the Martinelli goal. We'll talk about that in more detail in a sec. And I think you then saw, like Martinelli getting the better of his fullback, who had tired after Eze. Had done okay. I thought Eze was much better against Forest, but he'd done okay. And actually the substitutions were clever because we, rather than get the runs from up front and the creativity off the left in Eze, we swapped it by having the pace up front by having the pace on the left in Martinelli and the link up and the creativity up front in Trossard. Do you see how kind of the dynamics and roles actually slightly switch from one role or one position to another, may I say? And that's obviously then where you kind of see the 2 goals come, because Trossard and Martinelli, 2 players that, let's be real, A lot of people wouldn't have been happy to see them. A lot of people would have said one Ariel Dowman might have been ahead of both in the pecking order, certainly one of them. But he went with his two more trusted men who understand these Champions League games, who understand the atmosphere, who understand the level of opponent, who understand everything he's still got to do off the ball while trying to win the game. I'm not saying one Ariel Dowman can't do that, but I think he went with those who know this occasion. Martinelli, look at the goal he scored against Sevilla a couple of seasons back. Very similar one where he's played in behind by Jesus. He's bearing down a goal he puts into the back of the net. He did the same thing in Spain again against Real Madrid. So Champions League nights in Spain, this is Martinelli's bread and butter. This is what he does. And I've got to be honest, I actually don't think it's a brilliant finish and it's pretty poor goalkeeping. But the header and then touch to play him in on goal was brilliant for Martinelli. And then he did great work on the cutback, beating his fullback and getting the cutback to Trossard as well. Talked about Martinelli, onto Trossard. It's a great flick and then it's great composure in the box. Yes, it takes the deflection, but he gets that second goal. And the real praise I want to give, because look, I think maybe Martinelli and Trossard are deserving of a lot of praise here because they've been critiqued. We have signed literally 3 forwards because we didn't deem them good enough, and they haven't started the last 2 games. So I think a lot of people will be feeling like, in fact, Martinelli has started 1 of the last 4. So yeah, maybe because they've come on and had a real impact, we should be giving them more credit. We should be saying, look, if they've found this role in the squad where they can come off the bench and have a major impact, then we should be giving them a lot of praise. And I think I give them that praise without going into major detail. I think that is true. I think as squad players, they're terrific and they can have that kind of impact. I'm not that surprised. Where I want to give the credit to is Mikel Arteta because, like I said, a lot of people online would not have been happy with Gyökeres and Eze coming off. You've taken probably your most creative player available. Odegaard's out. He might even be the most creative player in the squad, Eze. And you've taken off the guy who gets goals. When you need a goal, you need to win, you've taken off the guy who gets goals. But again, I think he recognised that the place to hurt them is out wide. They're not dealing with our wingers very well. The pace is better in the channels. And the link-up needs to be more through the middle because I don't think, basically, Gyökeres, I think, had his best game from a link-up and sort of receiving the ball quite central and bullying his centre-backs. I thought that came off really well for him. And I think he probably recognised that Trossard, who isn't as strong, maybe isn't as fast, was probably going to, maybe he's as fast, but he was certainly not stronger at all, was actually maybe going to get some luck and be able to combine because the athletic players, shall I say, were getting stuck in but committing a lot of fouls and not really getting a hold of our forwards who didn't do everything right, but actually looked quite lively and looked like if they did click, they were going to be in the game. And we saw that with Martinelli and Trossard. So well done, Arteta. I mean, I was critical of his 11 against Liverpool, but I think he got everything right from starting 11 and subs for both these games. Now, the reason I didn't tweet out that I was disappointed with Marino starting in midfield in the way I did feel about, the Anfield game was because I actually think in this kind of game, it was about trying to stay in it and deal with the atmosphere, and a point isn't as bad. And I know people say a point at Anfield would have been a good result, but I felt there was a Liverpool there we could hurt. Whereas I felt Marino in this kind of game made a little bit more sense just for trying to give Arsenal a foothold, and then you can make more attacking substitutions, which actually he didn't really do because he still kept that midfield 3 intact till Norgard came on. But I don't know. Look, maybe to be honest, maybe I've just got Marino glasses on after his goals on international duty and a good performance against Forest. Maybe I just feel more positively about him playing, but it still made a little bit more sense to me than it did for the Anfield game. I don't really know how to explain it other than we had like a good physical foothold in the game. But the other place to give Arteta real credit is ultimately, when you see Arsenal have conceded 1 goal all season, and it's because of that Szoboszlai free kick, which I think will go down as one of the best free kicks we've seen in the Premier League, ever, maybe, genuinely. I think when you think that's the only goal we've conceded, you've got to give credit to Arteta for adding all this attacking talent, and yet the defensive principles are the same. Mosquera, brilliant again. Gabriel, brilliant. Calafiori might have been our best player in these 5 games overall. Timber, I think, did some brilliant work off the ball. Some frustrating moments on the ball, but I thought largely did really, really well. And Zubimendi and Wright, they all understand their defensive duty so well. So massive credit to Arteta for the defensive principles he's put in the team, but also the way the Arsenal team just harassed the opposition, constantly getting into them, constantly just like, you lose the first ball or the second ball, they go for the third. It's just a relentless nature about Arsenal, and that's instilled by the manager. And the thing Arteta will probably get credit for is the substitutions. But ultimately, it's a very good away performance. And this, I think, has been woven into the fabric of this Arsenal team since day one of Arteta coming in, which is the defensive principles are really important. So well done to Mikel on that. Arsenal win 2-0. It's a very, very good start. That's one of our harder games of the Champions League. We come away with a 2-0 win, another clean sheet, goals from the bench. No injuries as far as we're aware. We hope Gyökeres's head injury isn't too important. Just one last line. I thought the Athletic players were embarrassing themselves. The way they went down, the kind of not so much the kind of challenges, but the way they went down, the protesting, everything. So I'm really glad we got the win because they're just starting to really wind me up through the game. And I thought Arsenal dealt with all of that and the occasion really well. So credit to them. All right, those are my thoughts. Let me know if there's anything I missed. Madueke did brilliantly, but I don't think there's too much to say on that. I've done an analysis on the wings on the Goonerverse, so go check out that video as well. We'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And your man of the match, Athletic Club 0, Arsenal 2.